Hello cadets, this is Southpaw. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about basic flight model and controls. But first of all, a small mea culpa. At the end of my previous video, uh, I mentioned a couple of times that the F8 key is the one that's going to bring up the teleport to another base screen. Turns out I'm wrong. When the developers redid the key map, for some reason they remapped that to F7. And I've got the old key map burned in my brain from about 1,400 hours of playing this game. So apologies for that. Um, Going forward, I'm probably just going to mention the in-game function rather than the key because you guys have all followed my advice and remapped the key map anyway, right? So anyway, without further ado, let's dive right in here to talking about some of the basic flight model. So we're going to use our Iron Coalition light interceptor here, and you can see that when we launch, you lose first person control for just a few seconds there. You can still move your ship up and down, you can still boost, but you are pushed out by the launch animation distance of a couple of 100 meters there. So now we're out in space, we launch out of the red door, you see that red shading around the door, you dock in the green door of a base. If you ever try and dock in the red door of a base, let's see what happens here. Let's speed this up a little. Whoa, dock blocked. Alright, so we don't dock in the red door, we dock in the green. Let's go find ourselves a green door. All of the factions, base models are different. The red and green doors located in different places. It's one of the really nice little intricacies, details about Allegiance that learning the factions and the base doors is pretty important. And when we do some more advanced videos, we'll talk about why base door placement is important. Alright, so here we are back out in space, checking out our IC garrison. We're going to go through some basic stuff that's really important that you guys know. First of all, it's the key to disassociate or toggle mouse of flight control so that you can use your mouse cursor in-game. This is really important for a number of reasons. You can drag to select, particularly useful if you're going to do some communications that we'll talk about in another video. The primary use for this is mousing over your mini-map down here, and you can see that as I mouse over the different sectors, you get a little change of icons running underneath the name of the sector. So that little shovel symbol is one of the miners, and that arrow pointing to a circle is a teleport receiver. The sector we're in, you can see there's a light interceptor icon, that's me, and the empty star, that's our garrison. And in Tau Ceti here, we've got a base symbol with an O next to it, that's an outpost. Those icons are really useful to show you what's going on in a different sector. It will also highlight any identified enemy activities or enemy bases. You should be checking this all the time. Other information that's available here is the amount of helium-3, that's our source of income, that's currently in each sector, the nature of the tech rock, the number of HE rocks, and the number of deployed probes. If you want to, you can turn that off, don't. So that's a really critical and important control that you're going to need. We talked a little bit about the command screen before, but if we bring that up, we can actually give ourselves waypoints, or we can engage our autopilot. You can see that I just right click on the screen here, my ship starts to move. I can give myself waypoints to pretty much any object on the screen, which might be my base. My autopilot will dock me in my base. It might be
autopilot engaged.
This rock over here. It could be a miner in transit.
Autopilot engaged.
And if I just click out into space,
autopilot engaged.
I'll get a waypoint that's on the plane. Again, this checkered area here is the plane. Each sector is made up of a sort of discoid 3D space, which is widest at the center, and it narrows as it reaches the edges. If you ever fly out of sector, you start to get a warning. Then your ship will start to take damage, and pretty quickly you'll be destroyed.
Autopilot engaged.
So we can give ourselves some waypoints to move around the map here. we can zoom right in. There we are, flying merrily along. Alright, key uses for the map screen while you're in flight is to give yourself a waypoint, but also really to give yourself situational awareness of what's going on in the sector, what's currently in the sector, where is it, what are the threats, what do you need to defend. You should be checking this out all the time. While we're here, let's talk about rocks. In each sector, you're going to see a bunch of these asteroids. These are a critical game component. And there are 3 different types of asteroid. You got a generic asteroid, which is unnamed, like this fella here, or this one over here. These are used predominantly for building small bases. So an outpost or a teleport receiver builds on a generic rock. So does the garrison or the starbase and the shipyard. 2 most important types of rocks are your HE rocks, which are given the HE and a numerical designation, which is unique. The HE rock is the source of income. Miners go to mine at the HE rocks, and you'll see there are 2 bars on each rock. The top bar is the amount of HE that remains on the rock. The bottom bar is the health of the rock. It is possible to destroy asteroids, although it takes specific technology and a long time, and it's very, very rare that you'll see that happen in a game. So then the last kind of rock is a tech rock, and there are 3 kinds of tech rock. One on the most common game settings, there's 1 in each sector. And in this sector, in our home sector here, it's this silicon rock, SI2385, this little green color. The tech rock is so named because each of the 3 major tech paths, tactical, expansion, and supremacy, each require a different tech rock for their constructor to build on. The silicon rocks are the TAC rocks, tactical laboratory rocks. If we mouse over our sector down here, you'll see that the Allegiance gods really wanted us to go TAC in this game. We've got 5 TAC rocks in the sectors. Down here, this bluish purple color, that's a carbonaceous rock, a carb rock, or a C rock. That's for supremacy. And then you'll get a uranium asteroid, a uranium rock. That's an orange color, and they are for expansion. So again, there's generally 1 of these in each sector, and the location of the rock within the sector and the type of rock you get will dictate the kinds of technologies that your commander is going to research for that game. So here we are out in space in our interceptor. We spoke a little bit last time about the flight model and the fact that we've got 2 indicators at the center of our HUD. One is the direction we're pointing our vessel, and the other determines the angle of our movement. You'll see here that I'm tracking in behind this miner and doing so kind of slowly because the direction of my movement is changing and it's catching up as I point the ship forward. This takes a little bit of getting used to, but it allows you, once you've mastered it, allows you to get some really good fine control of your ship. So the flight model, it's also worth pointing out, it's got a sort of quasi-Newtonian feel about it. You see here, this is our speed. It's ticking up as we fly in a straight line, and it's measured in meters per second. I've currently got my thrust set to full here. Looks like I'm about to hit my max speed. If I kill my thrust to 0, you'll see it takes me a few seconds to decelerate. Let's try that again, but let's try that at a little higher speed. So this asteroid is about 3.5 kilometers away. Ramming it would be pretty bad for my health. We're about 1.5 kilometers away now, so maybe I should stop boosting.
Autopilot engaged.
Looks like I didn't stop boosting soon enough, huh?
Autopilot disengaged.
So we hit the rock, we took a lot of damage. We took so much damage that our ship was destroyed, and we've ended up in an escape pod. Our escape pod is slow and it's unarmed, and it has a finite amount of oxygen. And we can't get back in the game or do anything useful until we dock our escape pod back in the base, or our pod is itself destroyed and we die with it.
Welcome home. Ship is repaired.
Alright, third time's the charm.
And ready.
And we are launching again outside of our icy garrison. So let's talk a little bit about thrusters. In addition to your throttle and mouse directional controls, it's also advisable that you map your directional thrusters. These allowed you to slide laterally, and you've got all the cardinal directions: left, right, up, down, and they've also got a reverse thrust, which again I highly recommend that you map, given what we just learned about boosting and deceleration. So you're going to want to use these thrusters to fine-tune your control while you're flying in space. You're going to want to use them in combat to try and avoid your enemy's fire. And you're going to want to just generally use them to orient your ship with what else is out in the sector. So in addition to your side thrusters, you also have the ability to roll. Now, as we all know, right, there's no up and down in space. But changing your orientation to certain things can be useful. Most often it's just so you don't get confused, but the primary usage of changing your orientation is so that you can align your gun mounts with what you're shooting at. So if we imagine that I was shooting at a target that would narrow in this perspective, you can see my guns are laid out laterally across my ship. So if I align myself so that the lateral spread of my guns is in line with my target, it's generally easier to hit with more of his shots. Alright, let's dock up our interceptor and get a scout.
Welcome home. Ship is repaired, rearmed, and ready.
Here we are in the most useful ship in the game, the Scout. The Scout is a jack of all trades, but it has 2 or 3 particular functions which make it absolutely critical. And we're going to use the Scout to demonstrate talking about our cargo or our inventory, which is visible over here. So it's possible to swap some equipment in flight, as long as you've got the appropriate system that you're trying to swap to already in your cargo. And the types of things that you could swap are your gun, your missile. You can toggle your shields in and out of cargo. If your ship is equipped with a dispenser slot, you can toggle what's in that dispenser slot. And in addition to toggling your missiles on and off, you can also cycle through them if you have different types in cargo. So let's check that out. The default keys for this, bearing in mind what I said earlier about having remapped everything, is to hit Control and then the number or the letter that you see adjacent to each item. So here I've got loaded my gat gun. I'm going to want to swap that for my repair nanite cannon. First of all, I toggle it out. I toggle my nanite back in. You'll see it takes a few seconds to mount. And now instead of my gat, I'm able to shoot beautiful healing donuts. Next, I have in my cargo slot a probe. I'm going to talk a lot about probes in an upcoming video. But let's say I want to change that out for some proximity mines. Again, I hit the toggle. Takes a few seconds to arm, and now I'm able to deploy proximity mines. Now I'm in a situation where my Seeker missiles are no good. I'm going to want to use this rack of dumbfire missiles instead. Again, I'm able to toggle those backwards and forwards in flight. And lastly, if for whatever reason I want to take down my shields, I can toggle those out, and you'll notice that my shield bar here is immediately depleted. My shield is now sat in my cargo and is not mounted. If I raise my shield again it takes a few seconds to mount, you'll see that over time the shield strength builds back up there. So, last thing we're going to talk about in this video is we're currently in the sector, Tathlum sector. Kind of looks like this. If we check out the map, we can see that there are 4 sectors adjacent to Tathlum, each of which is accessed by one of these swirling whirlpool portals. In-game, these are called Alephs, or holes, and it's effectively a wormhole that connects 2 sectors. So here we're sat next to the Denom wormhole. Let's check our minimap. Which one is that? That is this one here. If you fly your ship into any point of the Aleph, you'll be teleported into the adjacent sector. And just like when you launch from base, you lose control of your ship for a split second, which moves you somewhere between 300 and 500 meters. And in so doing, you are kind of defenseless for anything that's sat on the other side of the Aleph. So you'll see now that on the minimap it indicates that we're in the Denom sector. If we hit the command view, we can see that we've got
autopilot engaged.
So far our only
Disengaged.
non-silicon, non-tac rock, this lovely sea rock over here that our commander might build a supremacy on. And we have yet to find any of the other Alephs that lead
autopilot
to the other
engaged.
sectors that connect on this map. So there are other ways that you can move from one sector to another. Moving through the Aleph is the primary one, but if your commander has built teleport receivers, like this one in Donatis, and your ship has the ability to use them,
Autopilot engaged. 8.
you're able to
7,
teleport, or in the
6,
game we call it ripcord,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Autopilot
and after a short
disengaged.
countdown, you hop from one sector right next to the teleport receiver in another. Here I'm using my side thrusters to give you a little look at the IC teleport receiver. While we're here, let's talk a little bit about the implications of the flight model on combat. We'll use our unsuspecting teleport receiver to demonstrate. So I've loaded my GAT gun, which has a range of about 600 meters. You can see that as I start to develop some angular momentum, my bullets have their own trajectory and momentum, and they're not really going anywhere near where my reticle's pointing. A little grey dot is now at the centre of the teleport receiver, and the bullets are spraying wide. What this means is that when you're in combat, particularly if you're manoeuvring or your target is manoeuvring, your reticle will lie to you. You really need to be watching the trajectory and the movement of your shots to make sure that you're landing them right on your target. difficult skill. It takes a lot of practice to get used to, particularly when you're manoeuvring and so is your target. But get this down and you'll start racking up the kills. So that's it for today's video. Really basic introduction into some of the simple flight model and flight skills and controls that you'll need to learn to start being useful in the game. And a few things to take away. One of the most important that will separate you from any other beginner player is to be able to start to build your situational awareness by using your mouse to mouse over your minimap whilst in flight and see what's going on around you. Use the command screen to do the same thing. Remap your thruster and your booster keys to be comfortable. Learn when to take your finger off your booster so that you're able to slow down in time and be where you need to be. In some ships, particularly the Scout, which you should spend a lot of time flying, you need to practice managing your cargo and your inventory. Make sure you've got the right missile loaded, the right weapon loaded, whether you've got procs or probes ready to drop at the right time. Alephs are your primary way of moving from one sector to another. They're also a really strong choke point, really useful in defense. And then finally in combat, try and watch the trajectory of your shots, not your reticle. Your reticle will lie to you. That's it for this time. I hope you've enjoyed this. Hope it's been useful. And looking forward to catching you next time.